Welcome back to the Living Simpler podcast. I am your host, Amy Mewborn, and I am so glad you are here today because this episode might be one of the most important ones I have ever recorded. We are talking about your heart, not in a metaphorical way, not in a motivational way. We are talking about the organ beating inside your chest right now, and the fact that what most of us have been told about how to protect it is incomplete at best, and at worst has been sending people in entirely the wrong direction for decades. Here's why this topic is personal for me. 2 years ago, I ended up in the ICU for a week due to blood pressure so high that my brain had swollen and was hitting my skull, creating stroke-like symptoms. And today, I am actively tracking my own blood pressure, cholesterol, and C-reactive protein to ensure that my heart stays at its healthiest. My parents have high blood pressure. One of my best friends is dealing with blood clots and AFib. My husband now has high blood pressure and cholesterol. It feels like everywhere I turn, things look bad for the hearts of the people I value most. So when I tell you that we have been looking at heart disease through the wrong lens for a long time, I am not trying to be dramatic. I am trying to hand you information that took me years to put together in one episode, so you can walk away today with a completely different understanding of how to protect yourself. Here is the number that stops me every single time I say it out loud. Someone in the United States dies from heart disease every 34 seconds. Heart disease is the number one cause of death worldwide for both men and women. And despite decades of awareness campaigns, billions in research funding, and an entire pharmaceutical industry dedicated to lowering cholesterol, those numbers have not improved the way they should have. That begs a real question. What if we have been focused on the wrong thing? Eats. Before 1920, coronary heart disease was rare. Autopsies from World War I soldiers showed minimal evidence of the arterial disease that is now considered almost universal in middle-aged adults. In 1909, Americans were getting roughly 32% of their calories from fat, including butter, tallow, and full-fat dairy, and yet heart disease deaths were a fraction of what they are today. Between 1950 and 2000, consumption of industrial seed oils and vegetable oils increased by more than 400%. Saturated fat intake actually declined during that same period, and yet heart disease rates climbed sharply. Something does not add up. That something is inflammation. The conventional story about heart disease goes like this. You eat saturated fat, your LDL cholesterol goes up, that LDL builds up in your arteries as plaque. Eventually, that plaque causes a heart attack or a stroke. The solution is to lower LDL, usually with a statin medication. That is the model most of us have been handed. But here is what the research is now telling us, and has been telling us for quite some time. Over 50% of people who suffer heart attacks have normal or only mildly elevated cholesterol levels. Let that sit with you for a moment. More than half of heart attack victims had cholesterol that would have been considered acceptable by standard guidelines. If LDL were the primary driver of heart disease, that statistic would not be possible. The more accurate model, supported by a growing body of research, is this. Heart disease is not a cholesterol storage disease. It is an inflammatory and oxidative injury disease. And the distinction matters enormously because it changes everything about how you approach prevention. LDL cholesterol itself is not the villain it has been made out to be. LDL is a repair molecule. It transports fat-soluble vitamins through your bloodstream. It supports hormone production. It helps rebuild damaged tissue. Your body needs LDL. The problem is not the LDL itself. The problem is what happens to LDL when it is exposed to chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. When LDL becomes oxidized, it transforms. It goes from a helpful transport molecule into something sticky and damaging that lodges in arterial walls and contributes to plaque formation. The LDL itself is not the enemy. the environment of chronic inflammation that corrupts it is. This is backed by the CANTOS trial, a landmark clinical study that found reducing inflammation in the body without lowering cholesterol at all significantly reduced the incidence of heart attacks and strokes. Inflammation, not cholesterol, was the lever that mattered. And if you want to know whether inflammation is putting you at risk, total cholesterol is the why wrong number to look at. Individuals with high C-reactive protein, a key inflammatory marker, have 2 to 4 times higher risk of a cardiovascular event, even when their cholesterol is normal. That is a staggering risk differential that standard cholesterol panels completely miss. So what is actually driving all of this inflammation? Ultra-processed industrial seed oils, which now account for nearly 70% of caloric intake among Americans. Refined sugar, chronic stress, poor sleep, blood sugar dysregulation, and a diet that has drifted so far from whole, real food that our bodies are in a state of constant low-grade war. Now let us talk about the medication that millions of people are taking every single day to lower their cholesterol. Statin drugs are among the most prescribed medications in the world. And I want to be very clear, I am not telling you to stop taking any medication your doctor has prescribed. That is a conversation you need to have with a physician who knows your full picture. What I am telling you is that you deserve to understand the full picture yourself before making those decisions. Statins work by blocking an enzyme in the liver that produces cholesterol, but that same enzyme is responsible for producing CoQ10, also called coenzyme Q10, which is one of the most critical compounds for mitochondrial energy production, especially in the heart muscle. When statin drugs deplete CoQ10, they are quite literally starving the heart of the energy it needs to function. This is documented. This is not fringe thinking. Statin use is also associated with increased insulin resistance and a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes, and muscle pain, weakness, and fatigue are among the most commonly reported side effects. Again, I am not here to make your medical decisions. I am here to make sure you are asking the right questions and bringing the right tests to those conversations. Speaking of tests, let me walk you through what the research actually supports, looking at if you want a comprehensive picture of your cardiovascular risk. Standard cholesterol panels are a starting point, not an ending point. Ask your doctor for HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. Ask for a triglyceride to HDL ratio. Ask for ApoB, which measures the total number of cholesterol-carrying particles in your blood and is more predictive of plaque formation than the cholesterol amount itself. Ask for LPA, a genetically inherited form of LDL that is particularly sticky and inflammatory. And ask for fasting insulin and an A1C, which tell you how your body is managing blood sugar. Insulin resistance is one of the most powerful underlying drivers of cardiovascular disease that exists. These are the numbers that tell a more complete story. Now, I want to share something with you that I think is profoundly hopeful. Everything I have just laid out about inflammation, oxidative stress, blood sugar, and diet means that heart disease is not something that happens to you randomly. It is a condition of chronic damage over time. And that means you have real, meaningful influence over it through the choices you make every single day. I had a client, I will call her Michelle. She came to me after her annual physical with a total cholesterol number of 210 and a doctor who wanted to put her on a statin. Michelle was 44. She was active. She did not smoke, but she was exhausted. She was carrying about 25 extra pounds around her midsection. She was stressed out running her business and raising 2 kids, and she was surviving on convenience food and coffee. When we dug into her full lab picture, her fasting insulin was elevated, her CRP was high, her triglyceride to HDL ratio was not great, and her A1C was edging toward pre-diabetic range. Her cholesterol number was almost the least interesting thing on her panel. We did not start with medication. We started with food. We removed the seed oils and processed snacks. We added more protein, more fiber, more wild-caught fish, more olive oil. We worked on sleep. We addressed stress. We added targeted supplementation, including magnesium, omega-3 fish oil, and CoQ10. And 6 months later, her inflammation markers had dropped significantly. Her fasting insulin had normalized, and she felt like a completely different person. Her total cholesterol actually went up slightly. And her doctor, when she showed him the full panel, agreed that the picture was meaningfully improved. Michelle's story is not unusual. It is what happens when you address the root cause instead of a single number. Let me talk about food for a moment because there is a tremendous amount of confusion here. Natural, unprocessed fats are not your enemy. The decades-long campaign against saturated fat was built on research that has since been called into serious question. Replacing natural fats with refined carbohydrates, exactly what happened in American diets from the 1970s onward, was a failed experiment that contributed to both the obesity epidemic and the cardiovascular disease epidemic. The fat that research most consistently supports for heart health is extra virgin olive oil. The Predimmed trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, found that consuming higher amounts of extra virgin olive oil, roughly 4 tablespoons daily, reduced cardiovascular events by more than 30%. That is a number comparable to or greater than what many medications achieve. Without the side effects, the foods research consistently supports for a heart-healthy diet are not complicated. Wild-caught fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel, extra virgin olive oil used generously, pomegranates and berries, especially blueberries and strawberries, dark leafy greens like spinach and kale, legumes, including beans and lentils, walnuts, seeds like flax and chia, avocados, oats, apples, garlic, onions. These are foods with long histories of human consumption and a growing body of research behind them. The foods to minimize are equally clear: industrial seed oils, refined sugar, refined carbohydrates, ultra-processed, packaged foods. These are the dietary drivers of chronic inflammation. And what about salt? The blanket recommendation to restrict sodium has led many people to focus on the wrong problem. Research has shown that very low-salt diets can activate the sympathetic nervous system, elevate stress hormones, and increase insulin resistance in as little as 1 week. Natural mineral salts contain trace minerals that support hydration, blood volume, nerve signaling, and adrenal function. The issue is not salt in its natural form. The issue is the massive sodium load embedded in ultra-processed food. Now, I want to touch on something that does not always make it into clinical conversations about heart health. Your emotional and relational environment matters to your heart, not just metaphorically, physiologically. Chronic stress, unprocessed grief, sustained anger, relational conflict. These drive up cortisol. Elevated cortisol over time contributes to inflammation, raises blood sugar, disrupts sleep, and creates the internal environment that damages arterial walls, social connection, purpose, peace. These are protective factors: prayer, meditation, time in nature, community, meaningful work. These are not soft suggestions. They are physiological interventions. Let me also spend a moment on supplements with the strongest evidence for cardiovascular support. Omega-3 fish oil, high in EPA and DHA, reduces triglycerides and inflammation. Magnesium, especially glycinate, supports heart rhythm, blood pressure, and insulin sensitivity. CoQ10 is essential for mitochondrial energy production, particularly if you are taking a statin. Berberine improves insulin resistance. Aged garlic extract supports blood pressure. Curcumin reduces inflammation. Vitamin K2 paired with D3 helps direct calcium to bones instead of arteries. Fiber improves cholesterol ratios and blood sugar regulation. These are not replacements for medical care. They are tools in a comprehensive strategy aimed at reducing inflammation and oxidative stress at the root. Let me bring this home with what I most want you to walk away with. First, ask for more than a standard cholesterol panel at your next appointment. Request HSCRP, ApoB, LPA, triglyceride to HDL ratio, fasting insulin, A1C. Give yourself a 30-day window to get this done. Make the appointment this week. Second, remove industrial seed oils from your kitchen in the next 2 weeks. Read labels, replace them with extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and small amounts of butter or ghee from quality sources. Third, eat for anti-inflammation starting today. Add 1 serving of wild-caught fatty fish per week. Add a daily tablespoon or 2 of extra virgin olive oil. Increase fiber, reduce refined sugar and packaged foods. Start with 2 or 3 manageable changes and build from there over the next 30 days. Fourth, support your stress system intentionally. Identify 1 practice this week, a 15-minute walk, 5 minutes of prayer, a weekly commitment that fills you up. Treat it with the same seriousness as medication. Cortisol management is cardiovascular medicine. Fifth, if you are currently on a statin or your doctor is recommending one, have a deeper conversation. Ask about inflammatory markers, ask about CoQ10, ask whether addressing lifestyle factors first is an option. You deserve a physician willing to have that conversation. Heart disease is not inevitable. It is not simply genetics or bad luck. It is the cumulative result of the choices we make, the food we eat, the stress we carry, the sleep we get or do not get, the inflammation we either feed or fight every single day. That means you have more power than you have been led to believe. You can build a healthier heart starting today, not by obsessing over a single number, but by reducing inflammation, nourishing your body with real food, supporting your nervous system, and paying attention to the markers that actually predict risk. I believe in your ability to do this. I believe in the intelligence of your body when it is given what it needs, and I am honored to be on this journey with you. Thank you for spending this time with me today on the Living Simpler podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it. You might be changing her life without even knowing it. Until next time, keep living simpler. Keep living well.